What is up, everybody? This is Alex from IHE TV. What's the worst thing you've ever done? Today I'm talking about The Drama, directed and written by Christopher Borgli, a Norwegian filmmaker who also made Dream Scenario and Sick of Myself. I've seen Dream Scenario and thought it was a fun kind of science fiction-y concept movie. Maybe not science fiction, more sort of like a Twilight Zone type concept fun movie. This is more of a drama. Dark comedy romance angle. You can see the wedding on the poster here being a big part of the movie, at least the build up to a wedding. But a lot of what makes this movie good is hard to talk about without spoiling the premise. And I would definitely recommend going into this completely blind. I didn't know anything about the movie. I didn't know any of the drama's drama outside of it. But before I mention any spoilers, I'll make it clear, don't worry. This is a superbly made film from a production standpoint. The editing is fantastic for the choice of when to cut or to flash something to remind you of a concept or an earlier scene in a way that doesn't feel like it's talking down to you, uncomfortable and claustrophobic when it needs to be. The audio editing is amazing. A lot of great emphasis and really memorable scenes. I saw this a couple weeks ago now and it stuck with me and it's kind of grown in my mind. It's exploring quite a deep kind of philosophical question about morals and ethics and judgment, the way we judge people, how we're hypocritical, how we're paranoid, and does find a nice balance between finding the drama and the humor with the extremely dark subject matter that it's playing with. Lots of fantastic bit roles that are memorable and kind of steal the show whenever they're in a scene. There's a DJ character for the wedding who's really memorable and he's only in one scene, but the dialogue fleshes out these characters and makes them feel lived in and just realistic enough with a kind of quirkiness to it too. Alana Haim was really unlikable in an intentional way. She did a great job. Everyone did a great job as far as performance. Haven't even mentioned Zendaya or Pattinson, but they're great together. They have great chemistry. Starting off with this meet-cute, kind of stereotypical romantic comedy kind of framing and devolving from there in a really clever way. I like that Robert Pattinson was allowed to be British. I'm so used to him doing these goofy, weird, out-of-pocket voices that it's almost strange to hear him just be British at this point. But I think from a script level, it's actually quite important that he is British, or at least other from the other American characters. So awkward and uncomfortable, and I think I feel like I've said all I can without actually delving into what the film's really about. So here's your spoiler warning. I'm going to talk some spoilers now. So as you can see from these screenshots here, it's quite a long, it's basically a dinner scene, but they're trying out food for the wedding, as one does, and had a few too many drinks and start asking each other invasive questions. Well, not invasive, just making conversation with the question posed to the table of what's the worst thing you've ever done, which winds up with Zendaya admitting that when she was a troubled teenager, she not only fantasized about being a school shooter, but actually took a weapon into school and completely fetishized the aesthetic and was obsessed with the idea and only didn't go through with it through sheer chance of another school shooting happening nearby and it kind of putting her off. But the key detail that makes it kind of dramatically interesting is the fact that she doesn't go through with it, especially with her pivoting into being a gun control advocate and basically becoming an activist in the completely opposite direction. And the fact that Zendaya is obviously, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would assume the least likely demographic of person to commit a crime like that. So as a thought exercise or experiment, or to highlight the satirical angle of it, that works really well. So from that point, it starts spiraling into these constant guessing games of, was she like a psychopath? Is she disturbed? Would you forgive your fiancé in the same circumstance? If we are playing this morality judging game, then surely we should be angrier at someone like when the Rachel character reveals that she locked her, quote, slow childhood neighbor in a closet and lied to the police about where he was. That's an actual measurable action that massively negatively affected another human being. Whereas contrasting that with Zendaya's character, she doesn't actually hurt anyone, except for herself. So it brings up the quandary of the level of forgiveness you have as an individual, or where do you place the blame? Do you put it on her as an individual? Or do you think there are larger things at play resulting in the character having a bit more dimension? And I think Zendaya does an awesome job making the character sympathetic in a way that doesn't feel desperate or hand-wavy like a 13 Reasons Why character that does similar things, with it kind of bringing Robert Pattinson's character to his knees and coalescing to this brilliantly awkward wedding scene which is such a fun, fucked up payoff. With going back to that audio editing, there's kind of a fake out gun pop scene with the previously mentioned DJ character not having the right wires, so it kind of frightens Robert Pattinson, and you're there with him, and going back to him being British, this very much feels like a specifically European perspective, with the writer and director being Norwegian, on the concepts of school shooters and how culturally insane it is. So getting that kind of outside of perspective, having to rationalize or try and justify or explain how this person he cares about has this side to her, and what it's widely saying about the aesthetics of school shootings and how it's not normal, balanced, healthy behavior to have this be looming over entire countries' heads. Just anecdotally, when I visited America and had like the talk of like, oh yeah, make sure you always know your exits and duck down and crawl, and it's like, whoa, this is like a real issue, huh? And the fact that it's become kind of normalized and become this apathetic issue in my lifetime, and I'm, 32? That's fucked. There's a nice line of dialogue that pokes at the fact that Robert Pattinson's character at some point says something like, it's not like she came up with the idea, this is just kind of a weirdly normalized thing in American culture at this point, having drills at school and it just always being talked about in some way, and kind of holding up a mirror to American audiences using these two powerhouse super celebrities to sell it is a clever way of being provocative but also sensitive. It doesn't feel like provocation just for the sake of it, like a, was it going postal or whatever it's called? Is it just postal? Uwe Boll maybe? Yeah, this is how you don't do it. Just kind of being edgy for edgy's sake and not really saying anything, just trying to piss people off. But this has a lot more tact. It's got a really good original script, great dialogue, lots of nice emotional manipulation, with it challenging you as an audience member with where you put your sympathy, with Zendaya's character being introduced as someone who's disabled, with her being deaf in one ear. And by the time you get the context as to why she's deaf in that ear from firing a rifle and practicing for what she was planning, it was very clever and hard to predict where it's going to go or what it's ultimately going to say, and just how many questions it poses. Would you be able to start over? That's an ongoing thing throughout the movies, through their meet cute and then being kind of awkward, and let's just try that again without being a nice kind of bow in the final scene, with it not being needlessly dark or depressing as an ending. It just kind of finds an organic place to wrap it up. And a nimble script as well, an hour and 45 minutes, absolutely perfect for something like this. Doing extremely well, not that surprisingly. It kind of insists you see it with how intriguing not only the press tour has been with these two lead actors, kind of using the aesthetic of a romantic comedy, but giving it this dark twist. And the name is just so vague. What is the drama? And that's the only other thing I'd really say, is that I would like to see this at least one more time to kind of cement, now I know that the surprise element isn't there anymore, like how it would hit on a second time. I think there's enough quality filmmaking going on that I think I'd enjoy it just as much, or maybe even spot details here and there that might enrich it further. So as far as a rating, this would be a very high 3.5 star for me, with a like, of course, with the chance of it going up when I see this again, which I will, happily. There is some drama with the director, which I'm not really going to talk about here. I haven't done any research on it. We talk about it a little bit in the Sardonicast episode to do with this. There's some old creepy essay that he wrote, which you can Google and come to your own conclusion on. Generally, I have the stance of removing the art from the artist, otherwise there's very little art I could really engage with. My starting point is often assuming that like a lot of artists are creeps and weirdos. Doesn't justify any of their behavior, obviously, but they're separate silos to me. Chinatown is still an immaculate movie, but Polanski is still a piece of shit. So hopefully this becomes a bit of a cultural lightning rod, get some discussions going, an elegant way of exploring a very difficult subject matter. So let me know your thoughts. Did this work for you? Did it maintain that tension and surprise? Let me know, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!